Erev Tov. So this is our first parak. We did the preface last week, and we said most of it was just to explain the structure, how it's going to be so organized, and explain how everything fits into the puzzle, which we don't have to work on too much once we get the sefer, because he's doing the puzzle. So if he does be medayek what he says, we don't have to figure out what he doesn't say. He's already putting all the pieces in. We just have to be noticing what he says. So the first, he said he divides it into 4 halakim, and the first one is al yisodas hametzios, which literally means the fundamentals of existence, which is going to start with all that exists. The word wouldn't even be correct to say all of creation, because the first subject is about Hashem Himself. So the issue is not what was all of creation, but all that exists, which is including Hashem. We'll see soon that word existence is not really accurate to say it equally on Hashem and everything else, because it's a different type of existence. But in general, you could use the word loosely and say all of existence. Al yisodas hametzios. Just a word, not a preface, but like he did already a preface. But one point about the whole sefer is that the Ramchal, when he explains issues, he doesn't give sources. The whole sefer is very much similar to the Rambam. The Rambam in Mishnah Torah, in the Yad HaChazaka, he doesn't bring sources. He just says, he tells you the facts. These are the facts. There's a benefit and there's also a disadvantage. The benefit is that it's very clear, concise, to the point, doesn't bring in issues, no vikuchim, and just says things the way they are. That's why it's very, very clear. The Rambam is very clear in contrast to the Shulchan Aruch, let's say, that brings in all the shittas and a lot of discussion, and or Rishonim that are on Gemara. So it's talking about the proofs and the disproofs and how to refute it. So there's a lot of intricate conversation that's sometimes confusing. So that's a benefit of the Rambam. But the downside is that you don't know where he's coming from. Like, what's his proof? And sometimes the Rishonim are arguing on the Rambam because they don't know where he got it from. So here, you could say the same thing, that the Ramchal is written in a way that he just says the facts. He's telling you the way it is, he's not telling you where he gets it from. So some of it might be from, he'll tell you he gets it from a Sorah, sometimes from Kabbalah, sometimes from Chazal, Midrashim, but don't expect to see in the Sefer any proofs. But I could just say, as a side point, that it's so beautiful, the presentation, that sometimes it's so clear, you see that must be the way it is. Someone once gave a mashal, Yerusach Shlomo Zilberman, that when you find hieroglyphics and you don't know how to read it, and someone explains to you the letters and the grammar and whatever would be necessary to understand that language, so it doesn't need more proof than the fact that it reads. Someone doesn't know how to read musical notes, and he finds a book of music, and someone explains to him how to read it. So the biggest proof is just to take a piano and see if it works. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That is the biggest proof. So sometimes also in such a kind of a presentation about what the world's all about, and people have many questions, it doesn't make sense, things are very puzzling, and someone gives you an explanation how everything fits so perfectly, that could be the biggest proof. But as far as technical proofs, he doesn't present. He doesn't present in the Sefer technical proofs, and doesn't even say sources where he gets it from.
But what do you mean the biggest proof is that hard words?
If you take musical notes, you don't know how to read music, and and somebody so the nimshal will be that he's going to explain what everything's all about. He's going to explain the whole presentation of existence, what life is all about. There's so many conscious on the life that if a philosopher will want to say a theory, what is everything? What's the meaning of it all? So he's stuck. He doesn't know how to make sense of all the puzzle. Someone comes into a room, so he can figure out usually what kind of room it is. If he sees that it's set up as a kitchen, he'll figure out that it's a kitchen. He goes in, he sees that it's a basket, or he can see it as a basketball field. If he sees that it's a laboratory, you look according to what it is present, you can figure out what the function is. Let's say you go into a room and you see an assortment of things that don't make any sense. You see, you can make your own mashal, but you see a goal, 2 goals, and you see a operating table, and you see a kitchen cabinet, and a playpen, and a bathtub, and and a studio, and what is this place?
My room was in.
What is that?
My room.
So it's a very confusing. Look at the world. What is it? What is this place? What is it all about? What are we supposed to do here? We're supposed to eat, drink, dance. What are we supposed to do? So it's very confusing because the world, if you don't have a presentation, it doesn't come with a explanation what this is all about. So the Ramchal is going to present call it a philosophy or a presentation of what the world is all about. Everything makes so much sense. That's the biggest proof. Everything's going to make sense. But he doesn't bring sources. I'm not saying there are no sources, and I'm saying he doesn't bring them. He doesn't bring sources. When he talks, he just says this is the way it is. So just to get used to his style. It could be, I think Rabbi Kaplan in the back, he brings sources. He does have notes in the back of his edition. Not all of them are exact sources, but they speak about the subject. Okay, I just wanted to make that one point, that the presentation is, the structure of the Sefer is not with sources. It's just...
but the thing is that a theory, any theory you can take, a theory generally has to make sense. Practically, okay, well, that's something else. But
no, if it doesn't go practically, means that usually the theory is going to be disproven because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into all the details. If you get a theory that's going to answer all the kashas and everything makes sense now, I'm not saying that that's the proof. I'm just saying that people are very misyashiv. After they see the Sefer, they're very settled about what life is even before they see the sources. But I'm not saying there are no sources. I think a lot of the sources are from Kabbalah and Midrashim and Masorah. So the first issue that he talks about is Hashem, Vabore Yisborach, about the Creator. There's an issue, whenever we talk about Hashem, there are two issues to talk about. One is about His essence, and one is about His doings, His will. In Hebrew they would call it Atzmuso and Ritzono. Atzmuso means His essence, and Ritzono means His will, what He desires, and His relationship to anything besides Him. Usually, we never talk about Atzmuso. We never talk about Hashem's essence. It's something that we can't understand. It's above, we're limited, and Hashem is unlimited. So, by the very nature, it's impossible for us to discuss Atzmuso. And you'll see in every sefer, whenever they talk about Hashem, they always preface by saying, we're not talking about Atzmuso. We're not talking about Hashem's essence, we're talking about Hashem's relationship to the creations that He made. But this one parak, which is three pages, he does talk about Atzmuso. This is the only place where he talks about Atzmuso, about Hashem's essence. Most of it is going to be to explain that don't make a mistake and don't think of Him as anybody or anything that you might imagine that you know. It's really to distance it from your mistakes. But this parak is talking about Hashem's essence. And then the second parak is going to be about creation, the reason why Hashem made creation, and then afterwards we'll talk about humanity, the human race, and on and on and on. But the first subject is before any creation, just God Himself. One way to explain the difference between Atzmuso and Ritzono would be Atzmuso is what has to do with Hashem, not in relationship to anything else, like between him and himself. And Ritzono would be what has to do with Him and others, anything besides Him. So this parak is talking about Hashem of Himself, not in relation to anything else. By the way, the Rambam in the beginning of Mishnah Torah, which is really a halacha sefer, but he made it a digest of everything over there. So the first opening parak in the Sefer is Hilchos Yisodei HaTorah, parak Aleph, is this subject also. More or less, you'll see many comparisons between the Rambam, the first parak in the Rambam, and this parak. But there are things that the Ramachal left out or added on. He did revise it, so to speak, but it's based mostly on the Rambam. So, Chelek Aleph, parak Aleph, Os Aleph. Kol Ishmi Yisrael Tzarech Sham and V'yeda Sheyesh Sham Motzi Rishon Kadmon V'Nitzchi V'hu Shehimtzi Yomamsi Kol Ma Shenimtza B'Metzios V'hu Ha'aloka Baruch Hu. Every Jewish individual has to be steadfast and know that there is a first, from ever, forever being that caused everything to come into existence and keeps it going, anything that exists, and that is God. So to say it in regular English, that there is a being of Hashem. We're saying Hashem. He says this is God. That a person has to know that there is a first being, and he's also Kadmon V'Nitzchi. Kadmon, first being means he's before anything else. That's what the first means. First means in contrast to second. So anything that exists, so you have to know that Hashem is first. Hashem is first before any creation. Besides that, Kadmon means He always was. Nitzchi means He always will be. So there are three descriptions. If you say He's first, that means that He's before anything else. but that doesn't necessarily mean that he always was. So he says, no, he always was. There was never a time that he wasn't. This is beyond the human concept already. In infinite time is, even time is a creation also. But he always was. If he does say he always was, that doesn't mean that he was first. It could have been that something else was also always. So he says both. He was the first. It means that there was nothing else. And also, he was from always. He was from ever. He always was. Everyone, please feel comfortable to ask questions if something doesn't make sense. So he is the first, he was always, and he will always be.
You say that in Yigdal.
Right, Yigdal is a poem that was made based on the 13 principles of the Rambam. It wasn't the Rambam himself who wrote it, but it's based on the 13 principles of Amunah, and this is going to be one of them. Rishon Kadmon V'Nitzchi. He was first, was always, will always be. And he's the one who caused everything to come into existence and keeps it in existence. He's the cause of all existence. Anything else that exists besides him is because he brought it into existence. And he's the one who keeps it in existence. And that is Eloka, that's God. Everything's good with that? Just in the first sentence he says the person has to be Yamin v'Yedah. So literally, usually you translate that he has to believe and know. The word belief is a very loose word that people mean when they say the word believe is that I have no reason to know it. I don't know it, but I believe so. That's not what the word Amunah means. Amunah doesn't mean just a belief, like he says right away, you have to know it so. So the word Amunah, in a more accurate sense, would mean that a person has to be steadfast in it. The word Amunah, you find many places in Tanakh that it's a lashon of being steadfast, like Vahi Adav Amunah. When Moshe was holding up his hands in the Malcham against Amalek, it says his hands were Amunah. His hands weren't belief. And also Yated Ne'eman. It doesn't mean that the peg is believing anything. It just means that it's firmly driven into the ground. So the word Ne'eman, Amen, also when a person says Amen, it means that I am loyal to that. I'm steadfast. Whatever the Chazan said, so I say Amen means that I am steadfast in that. It's not a question of believing in a way that believe means something a step less than knowledge. In fact, it's a step more than knowledge. Knowledge can be something that I know intellectually, but then if there's something that a person is steadfast in, he's loyal to it, he lives it. That's called Emunah. So that's the word that he says, Sarech She'amin v'Yedah. So the first thing is to know that there is a first being who was always and will always be, and he's the one who brought and brings everything into existence. And that is Eloka, that's God. If everything's good, we can go on. Oz Beis. Also, every Jewish individual must know. His true essence, it's impossible for anyone besides him to perceive. Nothing, no one. Not only a human being, but no creation. No created being, everything else is created besides the creator. There's only the creator and the created. So there's nothing besides him that could perceive him. Nobody can understand him. He's beyond all conception, all perception. That's something to take as a premise that our perception, our intelligence is limited. The Rambam, just to point out, the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, in Chelek Aleph, Perek Lamed Aleph, he makes it an important perek that everyone has to know that their seichel is limited. A person might think that everything could be understood. I just have to work on it hard enough. So he says, no, that's not true. Just like eyesight is limited and earshot is limited. Yeah, but within people themselves, they could hear. One person could see more than the other. One person is stronger than the other. But everybody's limited. Everyone becomes that his eyesight is limited to a certain stop. Can't see further. Can't hear further. One person is stronger than the other. He can pick up 50 pounds, he can pick up 100 pounds, he can pick up 200 pounds, but everybody's limited. It's going to come a time that everybody cannot pick it up anymore. So he says also in intelligence, everyone has to know that they're limited. The human mind is a limited creation, and not everything is possible to understand. And it's not something that he says, this is something that the Jews say only. It's not a Jewish thing, it's not some kind of an excuse to say we can't understand everything. It's a fact that everybody has to agree to. That's impossible to humanly understand everything. Some things are beyond comprehension. There's an example I once heard just to point out this issue, that if you talk about the outer space, is outer space infinite or finite? Is outer space infinite? Can you go on forever and ever and ever? Or is it finite? So what do you say? So infinite. So the human mind doesn't really grasp it. We know the words, the definition, but if you think about it, what does it mean infinite? Same way we spoke about before, infinite time backwards. The mind doesn't grasp. What does it mean infinite? What does it mean? It goes on and on and on, never stops. That's something that the mind has a lot of difficulty to comprehend. And the other side of the coin is that it is finite, So then you might ask, why can't you just stick your hand a little bit further out there? What does it mean? When you come to the finite end of universe, of outer space, so can you not stick out your hand a bit further? So this is something that's a paradox to mankind. And if you look on, even in modern science, the scientists say they don't know what to say. Is the universe infinite or not? They don't know. They don't know what to say. So just the point alone to say that human mind is limited is not an insult to humanity. It's a fact. And when we're going to say some things we can't understand, it's not trying to dodge some kind of question. It's a fact, and everyone knows that.
Yeah, but I would have thought that like limited and comprehension are two different things. Limited is like the capacity. Comprehension is sometimes we don't have all the kalim to actually make that conclusion, but it doesn't mean to say that we can't get there at some stage.
So the point being made is that there are things that we cannot possibly comprehend. The human mind, with the biggest human mind, the intellect that Hashem made for the humans, is limited. And you might say also that even the intellect that Hashem made for angels is going to be limited. It's going to be much greater than it is for humans, but it's also limited. There comes a time, some issue that they can't possibly comprehend. Not everything is going to be comprehensible. The comprehension is a creation that Hashem made that we're able to comprehend certain things. But that doesn't mean that it's limitless. Only Hashem is limitless. And since Hashem is limitless, so anything that is limited, any creation is limited. Only Hashem is infinite. And therefore, by definition, it means that no one besides himself can comprehend himself. So that's what he says, that we have to know that Hashem's true essence is incomprehensible to anybody besides him. But we do know about him is that he's perfect in every way and has no deficiency. Perfect in every way doesn't only mean the ways that we understand perfection, but even in the ways we don't understand perfection. He's absolutely perfect in an infinite way. We don't know what those things are even. Anything that we consider perfection is still considered a deficiency. That wouldn't be considered a perfection by Hashem, because we are again limited. Hashem is unlimited. He's infinite. So therefore, we cannot understand his infinity, his perfection, but we do know that he's infinitely perfect. Now, how do we know? If we don't even understand this, how can we know it? So he goes on to say, how do we know it? But the second point being made is that Hashem's true essence is incomprehensible, but we do know that he is infinitely perfect and has no deficiency whatsoever. So now the rest of this os base, the rest of this paragraph. When I say paragraph, I don't mean the way that's printed. It means the rest of this number, siman, whatever you want to call it. So he's going to explain, how do we know this? Who told us? And he's going to say there are two ways that we know it. These issues, not only the second one, the first one also, and whatever he's going to say, the whole parak, we know it because of tradition from the Avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and from the Nevi'im, that they had a superhuman comprehension, which is Nevuah. We have later on in the Sefer, he's going to talk about Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah, which is a superhuman intellect. And all Am Yisrael perceived it at Ma'amar HaSinai. Everyone became Nevi'im. At the times of Ma'amar HaSinai, the whole Am Yisrael became on a level of prophecy, and they all were able to perceive it to its truth clearly. And they taught it to their children generation after generation, Kayom Hazeh, until this very day. And that was a command. It wasn't only incidentally that they handed over to their generations, but that was a commandment. Moshe commanded them so in the name of Hashem, that they should give over this tradition to all future generations. You shouldn't forget, lest you forget, the issues that you saw by Ma'amar HaSinai. You saw, and that is the issues about comprehending Hashem. These issues about not comprehending Hashem, but knowing that He is infinitely perfect and has no deficiency whatsoever. They comprehended it. It means that they knew that as a fact. It's something that's beyond the ken of our intellect, but it is possible to comprehend on a Ruach HaKodesh level, on a Nevuah level, and they did perceive that. Again, they didn't perceive Hashem's essence. That's impossible for any being besides Hashem to perceive. But they perceived that it is so. Now, they didn't perceive what it is, but they perceived that it is so. That Hashem is infinitely perfect and has no deficiency whatsoever. But not that they were told so, they perceived it. They understood it. He's going to say in a second that it's possible also philosophically to comprehend it. You can figure it out. That's the next paragraph. But he's saying that they didn't need the philosophical analysis to be able to figure it out. They perceived it supernaturally. And that was the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the Nevi'im, and then all Am Yisrael, B'ma'amar Nasina, were able to comprehend that. To comprehend that it is so. Is it making sense?
But in Har Sinai it was...
At Har Sinai, Am Yisrael became the level of prophets. And they were able to perceive this, like it says, it says that they had a revelation by Har Sinai. The revelation wasn't just they saw the cloud that's on top and the thunder and the lightning. That wasn't the only point that they saw by Har Sinai, but they had Hasaga Nebu'it. They had a prophetic visions, and they were able to comprehend this point that Hashem is infinitely perfect.
There must have been somewhat like when the door was closed to Nevuah. I guess it was Ezra, I'm not sure, but what was that all of a sudden it was like the ball game was over.
Right, it wasn't all of a sudden. There was a process. It was less and less, and the last ones were Chagai Zechar Malachi, who lived through the 70 years of exile of Bavel, and they lived into the beginning of the second temple, and then it was closed. There was the Ruach HaKodesh, which is a smaller level, but prophecy was over then. But we have the prophecies that were written down. They have the Torah, and we have the Nevi'im and Ksuvim that were written down. And Bez Hashem will get it again. That your sons and daughters are all going to prophesy. So we're going to get it again, Bez Hashem. But this point of knowing about Hashem, this is in the consciousness of Am Yisrael that they've gotten it from all generations. Even if someone didn't know Derech Hashem, they also would know this. If maybe they wouldn't be able to articulate it the way the Ramchal is articulating it, but everybody would say that Hashem is perfect in every way and has no deficiency whatsoever. But he says that it's not only known through Mesorah, through Kabbalah. The word Kabbalah here means tradition, Mesorah. But he says, it's also possible philosophically, but academic proofs, to prove the truth of all these issues. It's possible to prove that the Creator is infinitely perfect. ויוכח היוסם כן מכוח הנמצאוס ומשיגיהם אשר אנחנו רואים בעינינו ועל פי חוכמוס הטבע, ההנדסה, התכונה ושאר חוכמוס שמהם תילקחנה הקדומוס אמיתיוס אשר יוולד מהן באר עניינם האמיתיים האלה. And it's provable that it is so, that Hashem is infinite, that Hashem was from ever, forever, first. Everything he said about Hashem, he's the one who brought all into existence, and that he's infinitely perfect and has no deficiencies, plus another 4 issues that are going to be the rest of the parak. All these issues.
It's possible for us to really know it. In other words, like if you met a tzaddik, then you'd say, that's as perfect as it gets, that guy over there.
Oh, so it's not true. But that's not true. A tzaddik is very, very, very limited. He's a limited mortal being.
For a man,
for a human being.
For a human being.
There might be a perfect human being, but that's not infinite perfection.
Oh, but when you say the words that he is perfect, I mean, we can't really.
No, when we say a human is perfect, we say that he's humanly perfect. Here we're saying infinitely perfect. We're not saying that Hashem is perfect on the levels that we talk about perfection. We're talking about infinite perfection. So we don't even understand what that means. True, but it says even though we can't comprehend what that is, but we could comprehend that it is so. It's possible to comprehend that the Creator has to have infinite perfection in order to have created this world. The world that we see as is cannot be in existence unless its Creator has all these qualities, including that He's infinitely perfect. So He doesn't tell you how. He says first of all, Am Yisrael knows it, Yidiyah Vasaga from Nevuah, and it's also possible to come to that conclusion with philosophical proofs, which he doesn't bring down over here. He's going to say, I'm not going into it, but Aristotle, so to speak, would also come to the same conclusion. He's saying that it's not something that only the Jews came to this conclusion with the Mesorah. Even the Goyim, philosophers, also did come to the same conclusion. The Rambam and Marna Bruchim, I think he goes to the trouble of explaining all of the philosophical premises that are necessary to understand this proof, but he's going to say in a few lines that we're not going to go into that. It's not our scope of our work now. We're just going to explain the way things are and as facts.
So if the Ramchal understood this and he makes this statement the years that he did, why is it that physics, astronomy, and scientists are lagged so far behind, or they don't want us?
Again, I didn't read those words. I mean, I read it. I didn't explain it. He says that in order to come to this academic proof, it will be built on premises that are proven from the world that we see. So he says there's physics and geometry and astronomy and other sciences. From there we could build certain premises, true premises, that as a result of those premises we could build on this chain of thought to come to the conclusion that it's the creator of this world has to be an infinite, perfect being. That's what he says. But even in his times, even at the sciences of his times, they were able to come to such premises.
Never was followed, or they never wanted to expose it, or
No. You look in Aristotle, you'll find it also. It's not an issue that he's hiding. He just said, I don't have time to explain it over here.
Not him hiding. I'm saying that.
No, it's not.
In general.
And scientists nowadays not interested in this point. They're
150 years old. Is that the concept of, Chas v'Shalom, there's no. It's not recent. It's not before. It's very recent. Before that, they did.
And it's not a science. They made a theory which is against all proof, and they have to be the biggest adherents of Avodah Zarah to be loyal believers in something that everything is against it. It's not that science contradicts anything that we say in Emunah. If anything, it But he's not going into those points about scientific theories. He's talking about scientific premises that, based on the sciences, we can come to conclusions how to build a philosophical analysis and come to the conclusion that the creator of this universe, this world, has to have all these qualities that he's going to list. He's going to altogether in this parak, he's going to list 6 qualities. It goes Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, and Vav. There are 6 qualities that he's going to list over here about Hashem. And we did the second one, so first and second, and now he's giving a interruption to say how do we know these things, both in tradition and also from philosophical analysis. If anybody wants to take the trouble to learn that, but he doesn't. He says we're not going to do it now. We're not going to take time for that. We're just going to present the premises in their truth and organize them well, according to the tradition that's in our hands and which is obvious and well known to all of our nation. So this was like a parenthetical paragraph to say the source of this knowledge is both from tradition, from Nevuah, and from Chakira V'Mofsim Halimudiyim. We call it Kabbalah and Chakira, tradition and philosophy. That's the source of all these, the knowledge that we have about all these facts. But let's chaz over the facts again. The first one was that Hashem, the Creator, there is a first, from ever, forever being who caused and causes everything to be in existence, and that is God. And the second point is that His true essence is incomprehensible to anybody besides Him, but we do know about Him that He's infinitely perfect in every way and has no deficiency at all. Number 3. Also, the Jewish individual must know that this being that we call in God is His existence is a necessary existence. That it's impossible his he'eder would be translated as his not being, his inexistence. It's impossible for Him not to exist. So that doesn't mean that we just could prove that there is God. That means that God is a type of existence that's different than every other kind of existence. Every existence is called mitzius mikris. It's an incidental existence, which means it happens to exist. Everything besides God that exists happens to exist. It could happen theoretically not to exist. It happens to exist. God is the only kind of existence that doesn't just happen to exist, but He has inherent, intrinsic, necessary in existence, that it's a kind of existence that can't not exist. That's very abstract, right? Because there is no such thing that we recognize besides God. But that's the point that he's saying, that God's existence is a different type of existence. One more time. Everything that exists, when we say that, we started off, he said that the whole chelik is called Yesodos HaMetzios, all the fundamentals of existence. So I said that includes God also. But now he's telling us that the word existence is really, depends who you're talking about. There's God's existence and everything else is existence. You can say they all exist, yes, but everything else only exists because it happens to exist, because Hashem wills it to exist. But it doesn't have any inherent, it's not be'etzem existing. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. This is a mistake sometimes people make when they learn these kind of subjects, that we're all a big dream, we don't really exist. No. We do exist. That's a mistake. We do exist. It's not a dream. We do exist. But our existence is called only willed existence. Only because Hashem wills us to exist do we exist. But we don't have inherent, intrinsic, necessary existence. We happen to exist because Hashem wants us to exist. But it doesn't have intrinsic existence, inherent, that it must exist. We must not exist. We don't have to exist. But God's existence is a kind of existence that cannot not be. If everyone's happy with that, Metzias Mukhrach. That's a concept called Metzias Mukhrach. Just by the way, some say that's the pshat in Yud Kei Vav Kei. The pshat level of Yud Kei Vav Kei would mean that Hashem has intrinsic existence. Not just he happened to be Haya Hova V'Yiyah, meaning that he happens to be now, he happens to be in the future, but not just happens to be, he is Be'etzem existence. He is a kind of existence which is Be'etzem. The Guru on Shulchan Aruch, when talk about the Kavan of Shem Havaya, I think in Siman Hey, beginning of Shulchan Aruch, so he says, he doesn't say these words, but he says the same idea, Nimsa Kayam, that he's a inherent existence. So that's the concept called Metzias Mukhrach. We'll be coming back to this concept later on in the Sefer again. But that Mukhrach means necessary. Metzias means existence. Mukhrach Metzias, necessary existence. So if that's the words alone, that Hashem is a different type of existence than anything else. Everything else only exists incidentally or happens to exist, whatever exists. But Hashem is a kind of existence that must exist. He's going to say soon, don't get scared that it's abstract. We don't have any such thing besides God to understand, to have encountered it. So the whole idea is strange. But that is so. Again, all this is going to be included both in the Nevuah and with the philosophers also came to this conclusion also. They also talk about Metzias Mukhrach. It's not just a Jewish idea. They came to the same conclusion through their philosophical analysis. That the world cannot exist without having a creator who has all these qualities. The next point, which is very similar, that God's existence is not dependent on anything else. It's independent existence. So it's very similar to the one before, but now we're saying that this Mukhrach means that it's independent. Realize that it means that he's not dependent on anything else. And even if anything else wouldn't exist, he still would exist. The Rambam goes both ways. He says that if theoretically, we said already that theoretically is not possible. Hashem is a kind of existence which has to exist. But theoretically, if he wouldn't be, that's Khalila said, then nothing else could exist because he's the cause of all existence. And even if everything else would not exist, he still would exist. He's not dependent on any other existence. He's independent. So this paragraph in one word would mean independent, not dependent. The paragraph before went necessary existence, inherent necessary existence, and number 4 is that he's independent necessary existence. So that's all defining his type of existence. If this was abstract until now, number 5 is going to be much more abstract. The next one is even more abstract. And then he's going to go on to excuse himself and say, I'm sorry, I can't do better. But the best we can understand.
No, it's not like that anybody would have to apologize for the abstraction, what's the word, of it. It's just that you have to go with it. Yeah. Don't you?
Yes. Both because of the facts, he says, and also it's provable. But I think if we would think a little bit into our consciousness, like he says, that all Am Yisrael believes this. It could be that we never thought about it. But if someone would think about it, yes, he would come to the conclusion, yes, that's my consciousness. That God is infinite in every way, and if he makes any kind of limitation on him in any kind of way, that's not him. So that's what he's saying in other words, and most of the paragraphs are going to come to is going to help us to understand, not to understand Hashem on any kind of level that we are. Sometimes you hear people talking about Hashem like it will be like a great uncle or something like that, and that's the wrong picture of God. And if they would just have this paragraph alone, they would have a different outlook of the way they picture or see or understand or talk about God. So there's a lot of we don't yet know why we need all of this knowledge. But he says in the beginning, trust me that whatever I'm telling here is going to help you in other places also. These are the klalim, and try to get the klalim straight, and they'll help you in other places in all of Torah. Yes.
So that's the idea, the believer's son of believer's idea?
Not necessarily, but we can talk about it, but not necessarily. Next one, number 5. We also must know that his existence is simple. The word pashut means simple. But it's not the way we use the word simple, like not complicated, but really more like not a compound. The word simple, when you talk about something that's a morkav, it's a composite, it's made out of different parts. So you call it a morkav. And when you say something is simple, it means that it's one. Not one in contrast to two, but one in contrast that doesn't have parts. It's one unit. And God, he's trying to say, as I'll explain, that Hashem doesn't have any parts, so to speak. A person, even if he's one person, you could say there's a human being, one human being. So that means one of two things. First of all, it comes to exclude that it's not two human beings, that one person, not two. But when you talk about one person, he still has many parts. It's not that he's all unified. He has fingers, he has hands, he has a head, he has legs. It's not all one. There are different parts of him. And anything is like that usually. But God, his existence is not a composite. It's not made out of parts. And there's no multiplicity, there's not many of him. So of course it's blowing our mind, right? We didn't understand any of these things. What does this mean that he's one? You can't even imagine him already. So that's true. That's why we want to know that it's out of our imagination. L'gamri. Don't think of Hashem as any kind of a being that we could relate to in understanding. It's incomprehensible, and his existence is one. Here he means he's going to say not made of parts, and number 6 is going to be one, not two. So so we must know that his existence is simple. The technical term is simple, not the way we use it in colloquial language, but in a technical word, he's simple, in a contrast to a composite. Without being a composite, and without multiplicity, not many. All of the perfections are in him in a simple way. He explains, Pirush. He's going to contrast it to human beings to explain why in human beings there is different parts of human beings. Not only physical parts, but also even kochos, even in man's abilities. He has many abilities, but all of those abilities are different abilities. And he's going to give some examples. But in God, even though he has all abilities, but they're not different kochos that he has. If anybody's mind is being blown, that's good. That's where it's supposed to be. It's blowing the mind. It's beyond all kind of simple human comprehension. In a human soul, human person, so there are he has different powers, different kochos, many different, that each one has its own definition. Derech Mashal, Hazikaron koach echad, Haratzon koach acher, Hadimyon koach acher. He gives 3 faculties that a person has. He has the faculty of memory, faculty of desire, will, decision making, and imagination. All kinds of intellectual, different kind of kochos that a person has. He could remember, and he could make a decision, and he could imagine. Okay, 3 kochos. Each one is a defined function that is nothing to do with the other function. Each of these qualities is defined and has nothing to do with the other quality. Imagination and memory have nothing to do with each other. There's a different quality. All kinds of qualities that a human being has, each one is a defined, specific, individual quality. Hashem is not one who has many faculties, many powers, many functions. Everything in him, by us, he has everything that we have, of course. But in us, they are considered different qualities. In Hashem, it's all one quality that one quality that he has, which is infinite perfection, includes everything. Hashem desires, means he has decisions, he does things, and he is infinitely wise, and he is infinitely capable, and every perfection. So we would call that different kochos. But amnam amitas mitziyusa hu inyan echad shekol alav mitaso gedero kol mashu ushleimus. Hashem's essence includes in its perfection and in its definition all that is perfection. I skipped the parentheses because it's not the Ramchal probably. Just explain that the word Geder is not to use literally in the word by Hashem. Hashem doesn't apply the word definition. It's already not accurate to say like that, but we can skip those parentheses. Hashem, who has all perfections, is not that he has perfections besides his essence. It's not that by a person you could say a person is a person, plus he also has a memory. But the memory is not him, he's not the memory. He has memory. But by Hashem, it isn't that he is what he is, and then besides that he also has qualities. But what He is that all those qualities. So 2 points are being said. One is that each quality is not defined on its own, but it's all one, and also it's not something besides Him, besides His essence. His essence, by definition, includes all of those qualities. So it's abstract, that's okay. His essence includes all qualities, not as something besides Him, but He includes all qualities. Even though in us it will be considered different functions, by Hashem it's not. That's His essence. Now the rest of the paragraph, the rest of this number, until Os Vav, the rest of this paragraph is going to say that don't be bothered if you can't understand it. We can't understand it. But again, to realize that it's something which is beyond our human limitation.
This is really goofy, but if Hashem was here right now and he heard this class, would he say, yeah, that's me?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's another way of saying that we're saying don't make a mistake and make something human out of Him. Don't.
We're talking about Him.
Yes.
Teaching us about Him.
Yes. And He wants us to know this.
Right. And He would say, oh, yeah, that sounds like me.
I'm not sure what you say. I'm not sure what you mean to say.
I'm not either. Yeah. In other words, he would concur. It would.
These
right to him.
These are truths.
Yeah.
These are truths, and it's saying that our understanding is very limited, but Hashem is above our limited comprehension, and in essence, He's very much above all of our limitations, even in the fact that by us different qualities mean different kochos. A person could have a good voice, and he could have a good intellect and be strong. Each one has a separate quality. Even in the mind alone, there are different functions of the mind. Each one is considered a separate koach. And in Hashem, it isn't appropriate, it isn't right, it isn't correct to say that He has many kochos. That's also making divisions within Him, and that's not true. He is one. This whole issue of Derech HaPashut, this simplicity, is far from our perception and our picture, to be able to picture it even. It's impossible even to find words to explain it, this concept. Because our minds are only able to grasp and imagine limited things, because we are created in this limited framework. So we can't imagine anything that's unlimited. In all of creation, everything is many and separate. There is no such thing as pashut in our limited creation. So that's why we can't understand it, because it's out of our box. But he says, as we said, it's impossible to understand God. Ulam kvar gdam, we already prefaced, Shamit in the beginning of Os Beis, Shamit as mitziyusa isborch ena musagas. We said already that it's impossible to understand Hashem's true essence. He said that in the beginning of paragraph 2. It's impossible to compare the Creator from the creations, because they're not at all similar. We should be able to learn out one from the other. So it's true, you can't learn out from what exists in creation to God, because it's altogether different. And in our world, everything is limited and defined and different and many, and by God it's all one. But we know this also, as we said, it's going to chazar over. We know it from Mesorah and also from Chakira, both from tradition, as it was based on Nevuah, and also from philosophical analysis. They also will come to the same conclusion. This is known to us through tradition, as we mentioned earlier, and also it's provable through philosophical analysis, which we based on premises of our world. And he explains what that means. Sheyevshal kol panim shelo yimotze yechad misholol mikol teva v'chukosav v'gvulav mikol heda v'chisoron mikol ribu v'arkova mikol yachas v'erich mikol mikri abruim sheyehu hasiba amitis l'chol hanemtzos l'chol hamesalid bam. It's impossible that there should not be one being who doesn't have any of the limitations of of nature, and any kind of deficiency or lack, and any kind of multiplicity or composition, from any kind of relationship or anything else that happens to any of the creations. He's out of the park, out of the ballpark. Nothing to do with anything that we see in our ballpark, in our human limited state. not only human, any kind of created state, that being, this is the philosophy, that they're going to say that being has to be the first true cause of everything that was created. Because if there wouldn't be such a being, there wouldn't be able to be such a creation. The fact that we see creation the way it is, that proves that there must be a creator who has all of these qualities. That this being that we just described has to be the true cause of all that exists. If there wouldn't be such a being, it would be impossible to see creation as we do, and to continue to be, and to have been created and to continue. It would be impossible that creation would be, if we look at creation the way it is, it's impossible to be this way, if not that the Creator has all these qualities. So again, he's not going in to explain what those philosophical analysis is, but he says that's how they came to the conclusion. And one more point, the last one is easy, that there's only one such being. That's what we say, Hashem Echad. The simple pshat, there's only one such God. The last thing that a person has to know also, there must be only one. This being we just described with these other 5 qualities, there is only one such being. Pirush, it's impossible that there should be many such beings that have inherent, intrinsic existence. There has to be only one such perfect, necessary being. And if there are other beings, as there are other beings, they only exist because He brings them into existence willingly. They all are dependent and not independent. So anything else that exists besides God, as great as it might be, is all dependent on Him. But there's only one such being whose independent, inherent existence. And now he just sums up the whole parak. Comes out after we finish the whole parak that these root information, these root knowledge are 6. There are 6 roots, 6 sharashim. And he just gives names for each one. Amitas mitziyusa yizbarach, Hashem's existence, which he calls in the first parak, the fact that He is the first, from ever, forever, and the creator of all. Shleimuso, His perfection, and infinite perfection. Hechachimatzo, His necessary existence. Heyoso bilti nitla b'zulaso, independent, not dependent on anything else. Pshituso, His simplicity, and Yehudo, His oneness. Those are the things we know about Hashem's essence.
Well, what's simplicity mean?
That the words he says is that He's not a compound. He's not made of many parts. He's not made of many physical parts, surely not, but not even any kind of kochos. You don't even call, even in the kochos, you don't say that He has different kochos. He's one. And that one, everything that comes from that one might be called in our world, they'll call different kochos. But by Him, it's one koach. If you have a eraser, a pencil with an eraser, so you have one part of it is a pencil, that part of it is an eraser. But it's possible to be one thing that's both an eraser and a pencil simultaneously. So it's out of the box, right? We don't have such a thing.
Indivisible. What's that word?
Right, indivisible. That's a nice translation. But the word literally pashat means simple. But the word simply means to say that it's indivisible, doesn't have parts. It's not a compound, doesn't have parts. So that's everything we know about Hashem's essence, and we can't veil it. The rest of the sefer is going to talk about Hashem's relationship to the creation. That's all we know. That's all we have to know, and that really sums it all up. That's what we know about Hashem, and everything else is going to be from here on in about His relationship to the creations that He made. Yasher Kochachem.